I still believe that bottlenecks exist, and sometimes product managers are bottleneck, and that's why they need to speed up and bring some structure to their work. Agents just help to solve very practical tasks, take some routine tasks from you, and bringing agents step by step to your daily processes helps to speed up yourself. So I see that engineering is not a problem anymore. So even product managers are in the top 3 in organizations who spend more tokens on building some stuff. That's fine. That's a reality. But I believe that the advantage from it could be bigger than any problems that you're facing.
Welcome to Stack Sessions. I'm Jeff Keyes, Field CTO at AllStacks, where we dig into where software engineering meets business strategy and how AI is changing the way product and engineering leaders build, decide, and lead. You know, something we keep circling on the show is that as AI eats execution, the bottleneck moves upstream. And clearly, this is a problem that we have seen in the entire industry is how are we dealing with this? How much context is the work grounded in? How much background do we give this new engine that can create endlessly? Well, my guest today lives right at the center of those questions. Matvey Bryksin is the founder of Product Map out of London. Before that, he ran a group of products at Arrival, the EV company, leading 60 some odd people, and he drove a whole effort. He started out as a software engineer who still shipped code. So, Matvey, thanks for being on the session today. You know, your experience is perfect for what is happening in the industry. Your background, your focus on coming from engineering, shipping code, turning to product, helping people that are product-minded, transform, make better decisions. In fact, you even started a company around it. But before we get into all that, tell us about Matvey and where'd you come from and some of the things you've done.
Jeff, happy to be here today. I've got a very long journey. It started more than 10 years ago. I used to be a UI UX designer, and I believe that conducting UX research has helped me to feel the product inside. I mean, in general, when you build some things and you understand your users, it's a fundamental understanding of everything what you do with the product. So my journey as a designer, as a UX researcher, helped me to feel this product culture and bring it to the team, because it wasn't a design agency. So it wasn't a product team. For me, it was new to bring some product practices in the agency, but working with many services, e-commerce shops, different startups, we learned how to build products internally. So, and we became a product design agency because we've been supporting products. Next, I switched to product management. So that's why I'm here, right? So I had a very good experience in robotics and software engineering. So combining these two worlds and bringing my product design expertise into their product helped me to transition. So I've seen so many people starting their journey in product management from product design, and it felt natural to me. So I started my career and naturally transitioned to the product manager. Actually, I've been multitasking, wearing so many hats, doing design by myself, conducting interviews, and even shipping production-ready code. But mostly I've been focusing on the product strategy, what product we're building, what will be our next priority, aligning multiple stakeholders. So communication skills also very helped me to move forward, because as a designer, you communicate a lot. When you present your designs, you do storytelling, so you should master it. And I've seen that when I started to lead my products, I had an intention to try my own. So this feeling of entrepreneurship always was new to me. And actually, I failed my first startup, but it was a great experience. So I tried. We learned a lot. I built a team. We failed. We pivoted and started to do different things. But in general, yeah, my journey was from design through product management to founding my own products. It was always the intention, because when you're building your own stuff, your ownership is bigger than usually in the product management. So you can try new things and even do things that you never do as a product manager. So boundaries are very blurry now. So product builders building stuff, shipping products. And yeah, that was my journey. So I believe that it was supposed to be like that. So.
And I empathize with that. I mean, there's so much that you get out of coming from a user experience and user research background that I don't think the regular person understands unless you've lived it. I talk to a fair number of engineers who now believe they can be product people, or even product owners from the old Scrum world. It's like, I'm going to be a product manager. Like, really? Do you know how to do this? I'm going to totally go off tangent here for just a second, because this is an interesting topic. Why does having a background in user research and user experience make you good at being a product manager?
The answer is very simple. Understanding your customers is a fundamental skill of any product manager. Understanding what they need and how you're going to solve that. That's a fundamental part of the product management. So you define your product strategy based on your understanding. So how you can get it from market research, from UX research, many other things help you to define your product strategy, but users are still the core. So talking with your users, understanding their needs, it's a fundamental part. And product designers and UX researchers, they always on the side when they need to not only suggest some changes, they are problem solvers. So they actually solve these problems. So let's take as an example, if they see that something is wrong in the user interface, they need to find out a solution that will fix that. And that's a fundamental soft skill that actually very similar to product management, but sometimes you just make big bets. So I think that it's the same soft skill. So, and sometimes even teams which doesn't have a product manager as a role, they're sharing responsibilities, and I've seen many designers take the lead. So that also works.
That's fantastic. What, being a user researcher is so critical to that, and to the role of understanding what customers want and how to ask the right questions. What kind of advice do you have for people to upgrade their skill set as a user researcher, improving their communication? As you think back on some of your experiences of bringing that whole customer research, user design into the product management world, and as you've advised other product people, like how do you tell them, like what do you give them advice for? Give us like the top 5 things, like please do the following.
Tough question. I didn't prepare that. I just love the mom test book. Maybe you know it. It's close. It's always close. I'm reading it many times, and I love the idea that you don't need to push your ideas during the interview. So perfect interview is when you're listening more and you're talking less. So asking right questions, open questions, clarifying questions helps to get the real experience, real scenarios, real use cases from your users. And I believe that another trick that I personally find very helpful for myself is to keep it as a dialogue. When you're reacting, when you're providing something to your user, you're not just asking questions and waiting for the answer. So it's not the way how it goes. So sometimes if it's a dialogue where you can also provide your view on what the user said, it actually helps people to open themselves and provide you more stories, so which will you use as a quotes and fundamental parts of building your product. So these three are top suggestions, but I've got my own tricks. So even the body language is important, the way how you introduce yourself, the way how you close out your interview. So maybe with some hypothetical questions like, how do you see the future in this direction, something like that. Or sometimes when you interview designers or product managers, you can even have a brainstorm session with them. So you can ask them to help you design the product, and it also works. So many tricks. It's very different to differs to the audience with whom you talk. So some of them are open, some of them are closed. And if you want to do it on volumes, you actually can do it remotely. Again, it all depends on your target audience. But my best advice, don't push your product ideas. So I've seen a lot of product managers who got very specific understanding what they're going to build, and they're asking very, very detailed questions without understanding the bigger picture. And sometimes you don't see the story or problem if you're let me change the phrasing here. Sometimes you don't see the bigger picture when you've got very narrowed questions. So when you're targeting your specific hypothesis, and you can miss very important problems that you don't aware about. So that's aware of. Sorry, that's something that I've seen many times. And when I mentor some product managers, I always try to avoid the story when they push their ideas to users. They should listen more and talk less.
I like it. Listen more, talk less. Don't push a specific scenario. Ask about expectations. Ask open-ended. Watch body language. Invite dialogue. It sounds like is probably the key. Tangent here, Sean and Matvey. I liked that last question, by the way. If you're okay, I'd love to keep it in, even though we didn't prep for it. I think it's really cool. I think it's a great topic to kind of kick in. I don't know if it's the very first one, but whatever. I think there's a whole other session around this topic. So
I like these questions more. So when you just talk about your experience, so keep it, please.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. Okay, moving on. Really interesting. You know, one of the things we talked about when we met up previously was your task framework. I'm just going to leave it there and say, what inspired this? What is it all about? Give us the advice that you're working on with this and some of the background.
The background is very obvious. So many materials available, and sometimes there is no structure and no sense in them. So open LinkedIn, you will find so many suggestions how to build AI agents and how product managers should change their processes and adapt for the new AI era. The background behind the task framework is the system thinking that you can apply for your fundamental processes, product management processes. And we try to bring some structure based on the experience that we learned at Product Map. And we structured it in a way of very fundamental objects that helps you to set up your own processes, because it's a framework. It should help you to build your own stuff. And we put in a task framework, it's abbreviation, topics, agents, skills, and knowledge. We put all very well-known concepts in one place in order to bring some structure to agentic product management. So you take topics as very well-known industry domains, frameworks, any templates that are available. So all this knowledge, we've got so many topics available in the product management, hundreds of them. You take agents that solve very specific tasks. You've got skills that these agents can execute. And these skills are very linked to the real product management competences, because AI agents, it's just your assistant that helps you to do your own stuff and achieve your own goals, what you previously did as a product manager. So they've got the same skills, understanding the voice of the customer, right? That's a skill. So you can build synthetic interview agent, you can build the opportunity identifying agent. So something that helps you to get this skill and understand your customers better. And the final thing is context, knowledge. So knowledge, it's a fuel for agents. If you've got very unstructured knowledge, if you don't have everything up to date in place, version controlled, then your agents start hallucinate. So that's what usually happens. Ask ChatGPT with one short prompt about your product strategy. What you will receive? Generic answers, very generic ones. So. But if you've got everything prepared, so if you've got artifacts that helps you to execute this strategic agent, then it starts working. So sometimes that's a cost that we need to spend in order to execute agents better. So we need to prepare this knowledge and we need to organize the master data. So bringing different, let's say, ideas from the industry, different frameworks, different approaches, and applying system thinking end up with a task framework. We published it in April, and it's still one of the top trending pages on our website. So people searching for AI product management or agentic product management, and task framework appears. So that's why it's done.
Well, I like it. And you've been pretty pointed about it that a traditional PM without taking on this approach is really the new bottleneck in the entirety of the software development process. What are you finding as people reimagine how they could be using a framework like this?
It's a good question. I still believe that bottlenecks exist, and sometimes product managers are bottleneck. And that's why they need to speed up and bring some structure to their work. Agents just help to solve very practical tasks, take some routine tasks from you, and bringing agents step by step to your daily processes helps to speed up yourself. So I see that engineering is not a problem anymore. So even product managers are in the top 3 in organizations who spend more tokens on building some stuff. That's fine, that's a reality. But I believe that the advantage from it could be bigger than any problems that you're facing. So you can change things faster. You can ship the next release with all fixes. If something went wrong, that's fine, because the whole industry is speeding up. So you can see that if you did something wrong, the cost of mistake is not so high. So you can change that. And that's why it makes sense to start slowly, integrate AI into some processes, and find some areas where you will feel a pain relief as soon as you've got something that does it automatically for you. And that's actually the best prioritization criteria. So you just define whatever is time consuming for you. That's how we've seen people optimizing their processes and automating some tasks.
That's fantastic. And bringing this in is making not just a better organization, but it's making individuals more effective themselves.
100%.
Are you finding, like, as you look at people adopting this or doing this yourself, are there common kind of areas where you see, like, start with customer interviews and find way to agentically do those, or start with specific design? What kinds of patterns are common that you see some of the biggest impacts out of?
There are some bottlenecks that prevent to start. But what I've seen then, people optimizing their product delivery processes first, is a natural thing. So let's take as an example administration of all tickets in Jira, or writing release notes, or something that helps to keep your stakeholders informed. So whatever channels you are using. everything what you've been doing manually, now you can do automatically. If you've got to release a report in Jira, then you just export it, you write release notes automatically, you spread it across your stakeholders, something you can do very easily. So the second thing, obviously product managers spend a lot of time on meetings. Everything that helps to optimize meeting notes, sharing some action plans afterwards. So everything that helps to improve this process, also it's a second priority, I would say. But the fundamental problem is that people facing a lot of issues with connecting multiple tools, organizing their product knowledge in a correct way. So I've seen that people putting a lot of information into Notion and after that spending dozens of tokens of after using, let's say, Notion MCP, because it's just very expensive. And as soon as you're starting to solve the fundamental parts, you will find some areas where you will optimize your processes later. But I would say that communication, product delivery, and some general process optimization is the key area where you work, improve your process. Yeah.
Love it. How about for the product leader who's just getting started? They haven't really optimized their team. I actually have a few customers that I'm talking to right now that are wrestling with this. They've got, I think they're calling them business analysts, that they're like, I need to make these guys be product managers. Or they've got some, I'm more skeptical of this, but they've got some product owners that are steeped into the old AI frameworks, and I need to make them be product people. How do they help modernize these product people, and help them become better product people, as well as get started into orchestration in some of these tasks? I recognize some of the people that used to just gather feedback, for example, and write release notes, those jobs may not exist anymore. And maybe that's the whole point. If someone's just consolidating backlogs and trying to communicate out with roadmap kind of stuff, that may not be the most interesting thing anymore. And 100%. Back to your point especially is if someone is going to be a true product manager, they have to have a bit of that product taste and understanding of where they're going to go. So basically, back to that, someone leading product, how do you help them this journey? Because they've got kind of a mess to deal with now. And all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, let's go orchestrate and create this framework where they can create agents and a shared knowledge. And
I would say I will split this question into, let's say, answers. So first one is when someone from the product team, like product analyst, is trying to learn some fundamental things. So what I would suggest here, so if you take the whole product lifecycle and you are, as a business analyst, you are over here at the beginning when you're collecting requirements, working with the many stakeholders, trying to align them in order to prepare some requirement or whatever business process you're working on. I would suggest that you need to extend your boundaries and go further the product analytics or business analytics and try to catch some areas which are close to what you're already doing. For example, data analytics. You never worked on that. You've been a business analyst. Try to build your own dashboard. So very simple suggestion to you, because boundaries are changing. So even everyone is doing everything. And that's why the normal thing for everyone is to extend their ownership to similar areas where they can also contribute. So that's how I see people transitioning from their existing roles to bigger roles and starting to contribute to the product team with the tangible outcomes. So try to extend your scope. It's normal. Boundaries are changing. So we have to adapt and try different things. But if you take a product leader who is managing the whole product management lifecycle, right? So the whole lifecycle, I think my suggestion will be different. You will need to find a bottleneck. I'm a big fan of theory of constraints, where you can find some touch points where you see that processes are not optimized. Maybe it's even engineering and the way of transitioning your requirements to engineering and checking at the end that everything works according to UAT scenarios. But I see that as a product leader, you need to oversee the whole scope and find areas where you've got some potential bottlenecks. And that's another type of thinking. So you need to try to cover the whole process. Even if you don't manage it fully, you're responsible for that. And trying to find some areas where you can easily integrate agents and they will help you to move forward faster, quicker. Maybe your results will be better and the quality of product will be better. You need to find what needs to be optimized. It's always linked with the business goals and product goals and your strategy. So you always use it as a main direction for you, what need to be improved. And if you feel that you need to conduct more interviews and make it more efficient, in a more efficient way, then work on that. Try to optimize how you synthesize insights from these interviews or how you collect this data. Maybe you still don't use AI note taker when you conduct the interviews. Try to think about what need to be solved and where you've got biggest problems and what will bring you what will bring you outcomes which are relevant to business. Maybe it's a revenue, maybe some other metrics. It's your choice.
I love it. Well, and I especially like the point you brought up of starting with the business case and then from the business case, finding the bottleneck or the inhibitor to your business case, and then attacking that as a problem because now everyone's aligned to why you should solve that problem, which is great.
100%. Because business will not invest into solutions which are generic. So they should linked with some goals or at least KPIs, because it will help to communicate what you're doing. Imagine that even if it's a technical depth and engineering need to spend some time on that, your main articulation to convince your stakeholders could be, guys, it helps us to scale later, or we are preparing for AI features and it will help us ship more AI features in our product and we'll sell more. So you need to explain the value, and value will be the main metric for you.
I love it. Another interesting aspect of the task framework is talking about structured context. And one of the core claims that I love is that you can have agents that act independently so long as the context layer is rich enough. And I love the statement. It's like a well-structured context beats step-by-step instructions every day.
True.
Is there a place where that breaks down? Is there are there particular contexts that PMs are still, frankly, kind of horrible at capturing?
I think they're capturing the context. The problem is how to make it accessible by everyone and how to store it in an LLM-friendly format. So that's a main skill that is required right now, because you've got some product decks or PDFs or whatever presentations you prepare for your demo session, but it's not accessible by agents, and maybe it's not efficient way how you can use this context. So maybe it's too much. So you need to define whatever is helpful for agents and keep it store it in a version control way. So also a lot of contexts are changing. Priorities are changing. Your OKRs are changing. Maybe your product strategy is changing because you're pivoting. You need to understand what version you are using. Is it up to date or not? Do you need to update that? Because after a few interviews, you change the way how you think about core user needs. That's what usually happens, and that's fine. You can change your priorities, but keep them in up-to-date format, in the right place, and organize the teamwork around that. So the second part, which is sharing this context with your team, it's the most problematic problem. It's a most problematic task right now, because I've seen a lot of product managers, they've got their own personal context somewhere, and they don't make it accessible by other team members, so you can't properly collaborate on this context. And that become a problem. If the problem is bigger when you take a company and they've got multiple product teams which need to be synchronized, kind of Scrum, but it doesn't matter. You still need to share the context between them. So how you can do it efficiently, what will be your approach to storing this data, and the general maintenance of this context become a real problem. New roles appear, someone who is managing the context and keeping it up to date in order to bring this context to other teams so they all can reuse it. I'll give you an example. We've been in touch with one company. They said that they've got some business goals structured and all teams moving forward based on these business goals, like cascading these goals. I said, where are they stored? It's stored on our wiki. That's great. Who's gotten access to this wiki? SLT team only. And like, how people can access these goals, how they can validate their tasks against these goals. If you're product manager and you're setting, you're prioritizing your backlog and you can access these goals, it's ridiculous, because you're blind. And that's the whole point of the context. Not everyone should see everything. That's true. But still, some context should be shared. And engineers are doing it better. I've seen so many great engineering teams who are preparing some engineering guidelines or some skills, how they write different code or different parts of their code base. So many things that they can reuse. Because for engineering, building some guidelines and code practices into their repositories was always the case. Yep. But if you take product management organization, or it's not only about product management, in general, it become a problem. Knowledge sharing, organization of permissions, and what information could be shared with everyone, that becomes a problem. So I see that there are so many things that could be improved in this direction. And actually, there is no one solution that solves everything. So it's always about building your own systems. Maybe you can build product that will help some teams to do that. But if organization has their own needs, they have to be ready for this context engineering.
So true. And what a journey. I feel like in every organization I've ever been associated to, every team, every individual has such a personal fingerprint on how they like to do things. And it's encouraged. But yet when it comes to sharing, now you have different tools, systems, formats, methodologies that are all somehow mixed together back to a common engineering team that is well more pushed for standardization and the rest of it. So are you finding that you generally advise product teams when they come down to sharing that to use some of the engineering practices? I mean, are you saying, hey, go get into GitLab or GitHub and push all your requirements there and your context, if you will, in that shared context? Or how are you generally doing that in practice?
That's a very good question. It really differs from the company, but if you are very small, then I would suggest that knowing the basics of Git will help. I'll give you an example. So very simple one. Our marketing specialist, she asked me where I can get the latest positioning messaging. So I said, Git. She's like, what? I said, right. Git. It's stored there. Why it's stored there? Because the tone of voice is stored there. Mm-hmm. Why do you store tone of voice there? Because we use tone of voice guidelines in our front-end application.
There, I
And
see
like,
the user experience coming right back in here.
exactly. So that's the whole point. And what was the next step? Just grant her an access to GitHub repository and send the file to her. That's it. Yes, it's also, there is not a big task to learn the Git. So many books available, and there are so many alternative concepts that appear right now in the market in order to organize agentic processes around the shared repository. And it's not even the Git, but it doesn't matter. So what you're using, still need to find some place. I would say that Git is just a basic and easiest option for small teams. It will not work for bigger companies. They will not bring everything to Git. They will still have Notion or, I don't know, Confluence or whatever tools they're using. They still will have some data there, but keeping the key context in one place, version controlled, with some general practices, how you manage it, how you approve changes. So that's what Git works well, and where Git works well. I use my personal Git where I've got my personal context, and I don't want to share it with anyone. I don't need someone to collaborate on that. And it's fine. So you define what you want to share with someone and with your team, and you can keep some personal context and use it in the same way how you use shared context. Another option, what people do, they create the project in co-work, they store some files there, they've got their skills there. It also works. So another approach, but you're thinking about sharing skills, knowledge, responsibilities across your team. I'll give you an example. What if you're going out of office for 2 weeks? Who can handle your tasks? You can leave some skills that do it for you, and you can ask your team to take these skills from you and use them, and you will not become a bottleneck. So when you will come back, you will use them again, or maybe you will improve the skills because you are owner of this context, you are owner of these skills. So, and I've seen actually one of the advantages that you can share responsibilities within the team if you've got some tools. So you can say, use that instead of me, because it's not a big deal. Use tone of voice. You can ask front-end engineer to use tone of voice in order to check everything in their application before they ship it. And it works because you build the tool, you make it, you made it accessible by your team. And it's also a product. As a product manager, you're building internal tools for your team. You onboard them, you adopt these tools, and maybe you improve them, maintain them, and update them if something doesn't work well.
I love it. I love it. Hey, I do want to shift gears and talk just a bit about Product Map. I hear you're a little familiar with a product called Product Map, just a little familiar with it. And maybe you could share a bit about how it started. I've always thought of it as a visual mind map, if you will, but I know it's so much more than that. And you can give us some of the background of how this got started and why you did it.
100%. It was fun journey. So we started as a mind map in Figma, which contains different product management topics, different resources, which actually too much for regular product manager. So we called it 150% map. So it's more than enough. And we published it, and we gained 500,000 impressions on LinkedIn under our post, which announced this map. So people from the community started to share their resources, leaving comments in Figma. And I believe that interactive format that we selected, because it's a live map, you can see cursors flowing around the board and people leaving their notes, leaving their frameworks and resources, articles, links, whatever. It actually helped to build a community at the beginning and find some areas where people want to learn more, or maybe they need more tools, or maybe some content should appear. So some knowledge gaps, to close some knowledge gaps. And everything was free. So we even published a map in the Figma community that helped us to gain thousands of users only from the Figma community. We're still one of the top trending resources in the Figma community. But after that, we started to think how we can bring this knowledge and these practices into the platform, into some web experience. And that's how Product Map appeared. So we started with personal goals that helps you to find the content, find some frameworks that are more relevant to you. That's why we built PM skills assessment in order to understand better where you've got some gaps. And next we started to bring some tools that helps you to solve these tasks and start bringing not only the theory into your product work, but also some practice. And we naturally transitioned to very practical tool that people use, and they manage the product context with the product map. We've got agents that helps to tailor your context for your product, and the whole journey started from the community. We're being supported by so many product managers and product leaders. They always being very curious to try our early features even before we publish them. And that's why we still got the staging environment where we do some tests with users as normal product managers do. But good news is that the part of the product success is our community and users, because they've been supporting us from the day one. Even when we're publishing some releases, I see that people are engaging with our latest features and they're trying them just because they like what we are doing from the day one.
I love it. When we repeat this conversation, I hope we have this conversation often. I love your perspectives. But if we're back here in a year, what do you think will have changed in not only product map, some of the skills you have, but in some of the PM assessments that you're doing?
It's very hard to predict. Things are changing so fast. I would say that we'll see more players and more tools on the market that product managers use, because I see that people trying new tools, they're engaging with multiple solutions. Even if they are not looking for the final polished version of it, they're still trying. And we'll see that they will have different experiences with other tools, and maybe some features that they've previously been using from other tools, they are not relevant anymore, and they are adopting new ones. How it changes the industry? People will become more open to try new things, but maybe the engagement and the overall process of working with the web tools will change. I see some headless tools coming, and it's one of the trends. We'll see that the retention metric that we used to measure by adoption of different features or specific parts of the web service, the whole retention metric could change. So we'll see alternative ways how we can measure the interaction of users with your tool.
I love it. Matvey, this has been fascinating, and I can tell I'm going to need to do this frequently and often with you, of having follow-up sessions. So many topics we didn't hit. Part of the reason we're talking is because AllStacks has expanded its scope and vision and offering product leader tools. And it's really a fun journey watching the whole industry change before our eyes.
That's all the point. Exactly.
Looking forward to much, much more here as we continue to talk. This is great. What a great set of advice. I'm really looking forward to doing this again soon and often. So much good detail. I know the reason we're having this conversation is because AllStacks is also moving into this product area and have some recent announcements around that. But how do people get a hold of you and Product Map and the things that you're doing?
I'm trying to push the product forward. We are publishing so many updates on LinkedIn, on our website. So stay tuned with our product updates, with our materials that we're publishing. We're improving our task framework. We're updating it with the latest industry trends. And I think the main goal for myself right now is to spread the word about the materials that we've got and bring some value to teams with the tools that we're building. So that's my main priority. I always trying to push the best products to the market, and I always keep an eye on the product because it's my baby. I'm working on that, and I actually love the product that we're building, and because I'm also kind of a user of it.
I love it. I love it. Fantastic. What a pleasure. Until next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.